What is up guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're making a tier list of things that kept me weak in calisthenics. Now if you don't know how these tier lists work, they basically work like a ranking system. So S is the top and D is the bottom. So if I put something into S tier, that means that specific thing kept me extremely weak in my calisthenics journey. Now the first thing that we have on the list is having a balanced lifestyle. Now you might be slightly confused here. How can having a balanced lifestyle ever be bad in your calisthenics journey? While usually having a balanced lifestyle is super healthy and good for you, when it comes to calisthenics, it's gonna take away from your progress. Like if we take an example of two identical twins. One twin has a hard job that he's gotta work every single day, a 9 to 5 job, and the other twin doesn't have a job at all. The twin that doesn't have a job is gonna make more progress than the twin with a job. And even if that job is not physical, even if it's just a mental job that stresses you out, that will still affect your calisthenics progress. Now imagine that this is not only a job. You also have a job, a family, and you have a bunch of other things that is a balanced lifestyle. Well, suddenly calisthenics is gonna be less of your life. You really are in a fortunate position if you're still living with your parents, if you're still living in your mom's basement, if your parents are still putting food on the table, you have less to worry about. In that case, you can put much more time into calisthenics and you will have a lot less stress. So without further ado, having a balanced lifestyle can really ruin your calisthenics progress and make you weak, so I'm gonna put it into A tier. Next up on the list, we have not sleeping enough. Now, not sleeping enough is obviously going to be bad for many reasons. So first of all, your body won't have the chance to do its hypertrophy properly and to adapt properly after the hard workout that you did. It's also not going to make the neurological gains that it needs to learn the exercise properly and to execute the movement properly next time you're in the gym. Now, getting proper sleep doesn't just mean getting 8 hours of sleep. Those 8 hours of sleep could be bad quality. Another important factor is sleep hygiene. If you don't know what sleep hygiene is, there's a lot of things that go into sleep hygiene. Like, do you go to bed on the same time every single day? And do you wake up on the same time every single day? Other things that you can do to improve your sleep hygiene is, of course, sleeping in a dark environment, ideally completely blocking out any sunlight, and also sleeping in a pretty cool room. Your body actually has to cool down a few degrees before going to sleep, so having a cool room is gonna help your body's temperature drop so that you can go to bed quicker and have more effective sleep. Without further ado, I'm going to put this one into S tier, because if you get bad sleep, that's literally gonna ruin all of the gains that you're making in the gym. Next up on the list, we have eating too much before your workout. As a calisthenics athlete, you want to be able to stay as light as possible during the workout. So eating a big meal before your training is just gonna bloat you, make you heavier and less effective. It's also gonna start your digestive system, and you don't want your digestive system that active whenever you're doing your workout. The reason why is the body is gonna pump a lot of blood into your stomach, is gonna use a lot of energy on the digestive system, and that energy could have been used to fuel your workout. Now, what should you do before your workout? I recommend that you eat a small meal that's not gonna affect your digestion too much. This could be a banana or some rice cakes. Ideally, it should be some carbs that your body can easily absorb, and then use that for glycogen stores during your workout. This will basically help you fuel your workout. So without further ado, I'm going to put this one into B tier. Next up, we got not being specific enough. Specificity is king whenever it comes to calisthenics. So this basically means that if you want to learn a full planche, like you see in the image right here, you gotta train the full planche progressions. That means banded full planche, and also the progressions like tuck planche, advanced tuck planche, straddle planche, and so on. Now, what I see a lot of people get wrong is that they think that basics are gonna get them to that skill. So a lot of people will try to get a lot more push-ups and get a lot more dips, maybe even do weighted calisthenics like weighted dips, weighted pull-ups and stuff like that. And they think that that will carry over to the skill. But in the real world, this doesn't really happen. The top athletes that I've seen, they always just train the move, they train specific, and they train with intention. Now, I'm not saying to completely avoid basics if you're a complete beginner. If you're a beginner in calisthenics and you can't even do 30 push-ups or 10 pull-ups, definitely focus most of your energy on basics. But as you start to get more advanced, and as you start to want to learn these more advanced skills, switch from less basics to more skill work. Another misconception that I hear way too much is people saying, well, shouldn't I do weighted calisthenics first, just to build up some muscle that I can later use in the skills? Like, for example, doing weighted dips to build up my shoulders and my chest for me to later be able to do the full planche. This sounds good on paper, but when we look in the real world and see what top athletes are doing, they always train mostly specific work. This is because specific work is not only going to build muscle as well, it's also going to build the tendon strength and the ligament strength that you need to hold the exercise. And it's also going to teach your brain exactly what muscles to activate to do that exercise. So without further ado, I'm going to put this one into S tier. Next up on the list, we have not tracking your reps and sets. Not only because it's going to keep you accountable, but also just for you to be able to know where you are in your progress. In my calisthenics journey, I found that whenever I tracked the sets and reps, it would give me a lot more peace of mind that I was actually progressing. Because if you're not tracking your reps and sets, sometimes you can train for weeks and even months, and you have no clue if you're actually making progress. Am I getting stronger or am I getting better? But whenever you have it written down on paper, you know for sure just how much you've progressed over the weeks and over the years. And this can also just be satisfying to look back at. Imagine when you get like 1 year into your calisthenics journey, you'll be able to go back and see, oh, this month, January, I was doing this amount of reps, and now in February, I'm doing this amount, and now in December, I'm doing another amount. Another thing is, you don't have to write it down in a journal like you see on the image right here. A lot of the times, I just wrote it down on my phone. Like, I just went into the notes, I wrote my calisthenics progress, and then the exercise, and then how many reps I got of that exercise. It's super simple, effective, and quick. Tracking your reps is also gonna help you train harder, because if I know that I did 8 reps of an exercise my last workout, then I'm gonna go into the next workout knowing that I gotta get 9 reps. It's gonna give you a specific number that you can beat. If I had no clue what I did the last workout, I would probably just not really push myself and get the same amount of reps, like 8 reps, because what is the incentive when I don't know what I'm trying to beat? Without further ado, I'm going to put this one into A tier. Next up on the list, we have letting injuries fully stop your trainings. But before we get into that, I just want to let you know that there is a free PDF down below with a bunch of beginner calisthenics exercises. So if you're interested in starting your calisthenics journey the right way with the correct exercises, make sure to download the anime blueprint in the description down below. Okay, so you might be thinking, why is it detrimental to rest whenever I get injured? A lot of people will say whenever you get injured, just rest, don't do anything, just relax for a while. But the truth is that you can still train even when you're injured. Most calisthenics injuries are overuse injuries. They are not trauma injuries. Now, if you don't know what the difference is between overuse and trauma injuries, a trauma injury is basically like falling down from a tree and breaking your arm. It's like a hit that happens from 1 second to the other, you get injured. But an overuse injury is an injury that gradually builds up over time. And this is what usually happens in calisthenics. So this is what causes wrist tendonitis, elbow pain, and shoulder pain. Whenever you get an overuse injury, the worst thing that you can do is actually to stop training altogether. And the reason why is because your brain is sending a pain signal into your wrist that you have done a little too much work in your workouts. The only way to get rid of that pain signal is to tell your brain that it's okay to use that muscle or use that tendon. So whenever you get injured in your wrist, for example, do some light band activation right away. Like do wrist curls, do pronated wrist curls, do stuff like this that's gonna pump a lot of blood into your muscle and tell your brain that it's not dangerous. Then after you get used to the wrist curls, slowly start to ramp up pressure on your wrist again. Don't jump straight into the handstand or straight into the full planche right away. Do some basics, do some easy push-ups, maybe even some knee push-ups at first, and then gradually build up from there. Also, another thing that you can always do whenever you get injured, even if it's a trauma injury, is work out the body parts that are not injured. So for example, if I'm injured in my wrist, doing pull-ups is probably not going to aggravate that at all. So I would always recommend to just train what you can train whenever you're injured, no matter what type of injury that is. I'm going to put this one into A tier, because I think if you stop your training, there's just no need for it. You can still keep on progressing and keep on making gains when you're injured. So it's only going to stop your progress unnecessarily if you completely rest whenever you get injured. Next up on the list, we have doing too much volume in one workout. Now what you're seeing on the screen right now is the intensity, frequency, volume triangle. And these are basically the three pillars that we're trying to balance whenever we're doing calisthenics. If we do too much intensity, we can't really do that high frequency and volume. And if you do high volume, you probably have to pull back on your intensity and your frequency a bit. So this way, you always have to sacrifice a few of the other pillars for you to be able to do another pillar. Now, as a calisthenics athlete, you gotta ask yourself, what is the most important pillar for me? Is it intensity, is it frequency, or is it volume? Now, I've actually come to the conclusion that frequency is the most important pillar. Frequency basically means that you're training often. And the reason why I recommend training more often is that it will train your central nervous system much more effectively to train more often than training fewer workouts, fewer hard workouts. So as a calisthenics athlete, something that is super important is to learn the technique properly and for your brain to be able to recruit the right muscle fibers in an exercise. The one-arm handstand is probably the best example of this. The guy doing a little bit of training every single day is gonna make much more progress than the guy training hard for just a couple of days a week. Now, the thing that I discovered is that this doesn't only apply to the handstand and the one-arm handstand. You would think that it only applies to that kind of move because that kind of move is so technical, but it actually also applies to harder strength exercises like the full planche and the front lever. I have made the progress of my life whenever I started training those movements every single day rather than just a couple of times a week. Now, what you gotta be careful of is not doing too much volume in those workouts. If you don't know what volume means, the total volume in your workout is basically just the amount of sets that you do in a workout. So if you do 10 sets in a workout, that's pretty high volume. And if you do 3 sets in a workout, that's pretty low volume. I do extremely low volume, but that allows me to train frequently, and that allows my central nervous system to learn the move very effectively and progress in those skills that I want to progress in. So for that reason, doing too much volume in one workout is extremely bad, and I'm going to put this one into S tier. Next up, we have not resting enough in between your sets. The reason why it's so important to rest enough in between your calisthenics sets is because you want to do those calisthenics moves with the highest quality possible that your body can perform. Because so many calisthenics moves are technical. They're just very technical in nature. So if you don't rest enough, that will not allow your body to do that move that you're trying to do with the highest quality possible. And another issue is, if you're still breathing heavy from the last set, if you're still tired and you still feel that lactic acid from your last set, doing the next one is undoubtedly gonna be less quality than the other set. So I highly recommend resting between 3 to 4 minutes between each exercise to get the maximum amount of quality in each set. Now, if you're a busy person and you don't have time to rest that much in between sets, resting 2 to 3 minutes is also pretty optimal, but it would just be extra optimal to rest longer than that. But without further ado, I'm gonna put this into B tier. Next up on the list, we have training alone. Now, personally, I'm a guy who trained alone in my calisthenics journey for I would say about the first 5 years of my calisthenics journey, because I came from a small town where nobody was training calisthenics, and I basically had to learn everything from my own experience or from YouTube. But when I finally moved and I found a community with a lot of like-minded people doing calisthenics, my progress suddenly skyrocketed. Whenever you have people to train with, not only will you be more motivated to train because you have someone to show your calisthenics skills to and to talk about calisthenics with, you will also just learn more by communicating with other athletes who know more than you or even know less than you. You can learn from that experience. Without further ado, I'm going to put this one into C tier. Next up on the list, we have not warming up properly. Now, this is what most people get wrong. They think that warming up properly means warming up for 30 to 40 minutes. And that's complete BS. You shouldn't be warming up too little, but you also shouldn't be warming up too much, because whenever you warm up too much, that's just gonna tire you out and that's gonna make you worse during your workout. Usually the sweet spot for warm-ups is about 10 to 15 minutes for most people. I actually don't recommend doing stretching like you see in this image right here. Usually stretching is not that important for warm-ups because it's not going to increase your blood flow at all to the muscle that you're trying to warm up. So you're not really warming up. The only time that I would stretch before a workout is if I'm trying to use that flexibility during the workout. So for example, if you have very tight shoulders and you're just about to do a handstand workout, maybe stretching your shoulder joints a bit can help you open up your shoulders and do the handstand with better form. In that case, warming up is a great use of your time, but if you're just stretching for the sake of stretching, definitely don't do that. So now you might be asking, what should my warm-ups actually look like? Well, what I always recommend doing for a warm-up is doing an easier progression of what you're gonna do during your workout. So for example, if I'm doing freestanding handstands as my main workout, you should probably do some wall handstands, some easy wall handstands before doing the freestanding handstands, just to prepare all of the right muscles and get your central nervous system ready for the workout. But not warming up properly, I'm going to put this one into C tier. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know if you disagree with any of my rankings. I will be excited to hear you guys out. Also, watch another video right here. You guys really enjoyed this one as well. See you in the next one.